or been wearing this robe longer than most people in this city have been paying taxes. 40 years. 4 decades of watching what human beings do to each other and what they do to themselves. I've seen addicts claw their way back from hell. I've seen mothers stand between their sons and a prison sentence with nothing but tears and the truth. I've watched kids shake so hard at that defense table they could barely say yes, Your Honor, because they knew one mistake might cost them the rest of their lives. And I've seen something else. I've seen the kind of person who walks through those doors and doesn't feel the weight of this room at all. No fear, no shame, just amusement. Like this is a badly decorated lobby they have to pass through on their way back to the penthouse. People who think the law is negotiable. Who look at this bench and think, I own people like you. That's who is standing in front of me right now. On the paperwork, his name is written in block letters. Nikolai Ilya Petrov, age 26. Address, Royal Meridian Hotel, Imperial Penthouse, 42nd floor. Not an apartment, not a condo, a hotel suite that costs $10,000 a night. The intake officer underlined it twice, like his pen couldn't believe it either. I look at him. Custom suit, dark navy, hand-stitched, you can tell from 20 feet. Shirt so white it almost glows under the fluorescence. Shoes polished enough that if you leaned down, you'd see your own face in them. He's not wearing a tie. Of course he's not. People like him don't have to follow dress codes. That's for everyone else. His expression says it all. Bored, impatient, mildly entertained. He keeps glancing back at the second row, where 2 men in much cheaper suits and much more expensive watches are sitting with their arms folded. Bodyguards, probably, or assistants, or both. I know the last name. Everybody does. Petrov Holdings, Petrov Shipping, Petrov Capital. Petrov, the name whispered in D reports in foreign newspapers in connection with words like syndicate and money laundering, even though on paper the father is just a visionary entrepreneur. I don't care about rumors. I care about what happened on Oak Ridge Boulevard at 2:39 a.m. 3 Saturdays ago. Mr. Petrov, I say, opening the first file. You are before this court on charges of reckless driving, operating a motor vehicle at a speed 65 miles per hour over the posted limit, refusal to comply with a lawful order, threatening a public servant, and attempting to interfere with an ongoing investigation. How do you plead? His attorney, whose suit probably cost more than my car, but somehow still isn't as sharp as the one his client is wearing, stands up before he can open his mouth. Not guilty on all counts. Your Honor, of course. Sit down. I tell him, I've read the plea. Now we're going to talk about the facts. Because for all the money in this room, the facts are still free, and they're the same for everyone. I flip to the police report. This is where, in another kind of story, the camera would cut. In here, we don't cut. We read. On June 11th, at approximately 2:39 a.m., Officer Marcus Lee, badge number 3842, was positioned on Oak Ridge Boulevard running stationary radar. Fuse. Never been on Oak Ridge at night. Let me explain something to you. It is not a racetrack. It's a winding 2-lane road that snakes past apartment complexes, duplexes, and the kind of older single-family homes that still have bikes lying in the front yard and plastic kiddie pools in the driveway. The posted speed limit is 35. There are 3 crosswalks in a mile and a half. There's a bus stop where shift workers get off at all hours. We had a fatality there last year. A nurse walking home from the late shift, hit by someone doing 55 who didn't see her. Her mother sat in the very chair Mr. Petrov is sitting in now, clutching a photo that looked like it had been folded and unfolded 1,000 times. That's what I see when I read Oak Ridge Boulevard. The report says this. At 2:39 a.m., I observed headlights approaching eastbound at an extremely high rate of speed. Radar reading, 102 miles per hour. 102. On a road built for 35, Lee activated his lights, pulled out, and gave chase. From his dashcam you can see it. A blur of graphite gray, later identified as a 2022 McLaren 765 LT, retail north of $380,000, eating up the pavement ahead of him. License plate, nitrogen monoxide limit. Cute. When the lights come on behind him, you can see the McLaren's brake lights flash. It slows. For a second, then the engine roars and the car takes off again. Vehicle failed to yield, Lee wrote. Continued at high speed for approximately 1.8 miles. passing 2 red lights without stopping, drifting into opposing lane on curve near Maple Court. He has no way of knowing, in that moment, if the driver is drunk, high, fleeing a crime, or just stupid. He only knows that if that car leaves the road at that speed, somebody's dying. Backup is called. 2 units respond. At 2:42 a.m., the McLaren finally jerks into the parking lot of a closed strip mall, screeching to a stop at an angle across 3 spaces. The engine idles. The brake lights pulse. Officer Lee's dashcam shows him approaching on the driver's side, flashlights sweeping inside. 1 driver, no passengers. Expensive wristwatch, catching the light on his left hand as it rests casually on the wheel. Phone in his right. He doesn't roll the window down more than 2 inches. Evening, sir, Lee says, voice controlled. I'm Officer Lee with City PD, license and registration. Please. The driver shakes his head slowly, disbelieving. You made mistake, he says, accent thick, but words clear. You cannot do this. I clocked you at 102 miles an hour, in a 35 zone. Lee replies, license, registration. The driver laughs. Short, disdainful. Into the phone, in rapid Russian, he says something we later had translated, pulled over by a child with a badge. Get Ivan on the line. This is ridiculous. Lee repeats the request. .com/professional. 3 times. 3 times he is ignored. On the 3rd, the driver holds up 1 manicured finger. The universal sign for, wait, I'm busy. To a man with a gun on his hip, a radio on his shoulder, and a wife and baby asleep in a 2-bedroom across town. Look up at Petrov. He's not twitching. He's not sweating. He knows this already. He's lived it. We both know, I say, that from your perspective, Officer Lee was the one interrupting you. He doesn't answer. I don't need him to. The report does. Subject refused to end phone call. Lee wrote, I again ordered him to provide documentation. Subject ended call, lowered window approximately 4 more inches, and stated, you're making a very expensive mistake. Then comes the line I circled in red ink the first time I read it. The one I played back on the body cam over and over, until I could say it by memory. I make 1 call, and you disappear. It's right there on the recording. His voice, his face, his mouth forming each word like a promise, not shouted, not in a rage, calm, confident, you disappear. He wasn't talking about a transfer, he wasn't talking about a complaint, he was talking about erasure. He believed, truly believed, that 1 phone call to some shadowy Ivan would be enough to end a man's career. His livelihood, maybe more. You can hear the beat that follows on the tape. Half a second where the air between them changes. Lee doesn't step back, he doesn't draw his weapon, he doesn't raise his voice. He just says, sir, step out of the vehicle now, or you will be placed under arrest. That's restraint. If you want to know what real power looks like, it's not the guy in the sports car making threats, It's the one in the reflective vest who doesn't flinch when death in a $380,000 wrapper tells him he can make him vanish. The scene outside the car escalates. I'll come back to that. Because what really sent this case spinning from rich kid going way too fast to we might have a systemic problem here didn't happen on the street, it happened 47 minutes later. After the cuffs, after the impound. After the booking photos were taken and the fingerprints pressed onto scanner glass. Bail was set at $50,000. Standard for a combination of reckless driving at that level, refusal to comply, and threats against an officer. Most defendants in this courthouse have families who scramble to put together the 10% needed for a bond. Call cousins, call neighbors, pawn something. Get creative. Mr. Petrov did not have to get creative. The booking log shows this. 3:16 a.m. bail set, $50,000 full. 3:19 a.m. jail, accounting notified of incoming wire, 3:23 a.m. wire received from Bank of Luxembourg. Reference, Bond and Petrov, last res, E26, Alto M. Defendant released. 10 minutes, scowl. It takes longer to microwave a frozen pizza than it took for 35 years of personal consequences to be erased at least. Temporarily by somebody somewhere hitting send on a keypad in Europe. Jail security footage shows him walking out of the release door, not in a wrinkled t-shirt and borrowed sweatpants like most. He never changed. Same perfect suit, same watch, same amused half smile. Waiting for him at the curb. A black G-Wagon, hazards flashing in the fire lane. He slides in, door closes. The car disappears into the night. I might never have heard about what he did next if he had any capacity for shame. He doesn't. At noon that same day, his Instagram account 424,000 followers. Blue checkmark, bio reading citizen of the world, investor, philanthropist, posted a photo. It's a bathroom mirror selfie. He's shirtless this time, abs on display, towel low on his hips, gold chain visible. On the marble counter you can see a court bracelet, the kind they put on you when you're processed through holding. The caption reads, "Some mosquitoes try to bite lions. Lions don't notice." Pinned to the top, for extra pride, is a cropped screenshot from his bodycam encounter. It's the moment his mouth is forming the words "one call," frozen forever in pixel arrogance. In the tagged location, he put, "Four Seasons Presidential Suite Breakfast, bail, back to life." I remember sitting at my kitchen table the night before the arraignment, that image on my iPad, a cold cup of coffee untouched beside my hand, thinking, if the law doesn't mean anything to him here, in this city, in this courtroom, then where will it? That's why, when he interrupted me at the initial arraignment standing up in that same suit, smirk plastered on like a permanent fixture and said, "Loud enough for everyone to hear. You people are too poor to understand my world. Too poor to judge me." I didn't snap. I didn't raise my voice. I just realized something with a clarity I felt in my bones. If someone like this walks out of here with a fine and a lecture, while kids from the South Side do time for stealing a car stereo, then I am no longer a judge. I am a clerk in a very expensive charade, and I did not spend 4 decades of my life to become a prop in someone else's performance. So I did what I always do when the emotions want to take the wheel. I breathed. I read the law. I looked at the maximums and minimums. I weighed his lack of record against his surplus of contempt. And I decided that today, in this room, at least one person named Petrov was going to learn what the words equal under the law actually feel like. Not printed on a brochure. Not engraved on a courthouse. Lived on flesh. Counsel, I say now, turning to Mr. Kensington, you argued in your memorandum that your client is a young man with no prior convictions, who made an impulsive mistake, compounded by a cultural and linguistic misunderstanding. He nods, wary. Yes, Your Honor. Let me ask you something. I continue. Which part was the misunderstanding? The decision to drive 102 and a 35. The refusal to roll the window down. The repeated ignoring of lawful commands. Or the sentence "I make one call and you disappear." That seems fairly unambiguous, even before translation. My client's first language is Russian. He starts. Nuance can, one call, and you disappear is not nuance. I cut in. It is a threat, a specific one. I flip to another file. You also argued, I read, that the speeding should be viewed in context because, and I quote, there were no pedestrians, minimal traffic, and no actual collision. Yes, Your Honor, he says. Recklessness without harm, a gun fired into a crowd that, by sheer luck, hits no one is still a crime, I say. We do not wait for bodies to appear on asphalt before we call behavior dangerous. He opens his mouth, thinks better of it, closes it. You mentioned your client's charity work. I go on. Galas, fundraisers, foundation boards. That's all very photogenic. But tell me, which shows more of a man's character? What he does when the cameras are on at a gala, or what he does when a single patrol car's dashcam is the only lens watching? Silence. I let it stretch. I turn to You had an opportunity to speak through counsel. I say, you have the right to remain silent. You also have the right to speak directly to the court before sentence is imposed. Would you like to say anything? He looks at Kensington, who gives him the world's smallest shrug. Up to you. Petrov steps forward half an inch. I respect your position, Judge. He says his accent thickens when he's on the defensive. I do, but you do not understand my life. Things happen fast. In my world, we solve problems. We don't drag them out. I was angry. I said things. They are just words. Nobody was hurt. This, he sweeps a hand, fingers adorned with rings. This is too much for words. He thinks this is about words. He thinks this is about my pride. He's wrong. This, I say quietly, is about the people who will die if we teach every 26-year-old with a sports car and a rich father that the worst thing that happens to them at 102 miles an hour is a fine and some bad press. I pick up my pen. The room feels like it's holding its breath. On the count of reckless driving, I say, I find you guilty. You were not 10 miles over. You were not 15. You were 67 miles over the posted limit, in a residential corridor, within a mile of an active accident scene. For that, I sentence you to 6 months in the county jail. He doesn't flinch. 6 months is a number his brain can still translate into inconvenience. He's not ready for the rest, on account of excessive speed more than 60 miles per hour over the posted limit. I continue. I impose the maximum fine of $2,500 and an additional 6 months in the county jail, to run consecutively with a first. That brings your total to 1 year. There's a rustle in the second row. One of the assistants shifts. Petrov's jaw tightens. On the count of refusal to comply with a lawful order, I say, I sentence you to 3 months, concurrent. You will serve that within the year already stated. He exhales, maybe thinking, still just a year. He's wrong. On the count of threatening a public servant in the performance of his duties, I go on, letting each word land. I sentence you to 2 years in state prison. A ripple goes through the courtroom like a wave. That term will run consecutively to the 1-year county sentence. I add, your total term of incarceration is 3 years. Now, he reacts. His head jerks up, his mouth opens. Nothing comes out. For the record, I say, looking him full in the face, I could have given you more. The statute allows it. I chose 3 years because I believe that is the minimum amount of time it will take to chip even a hairline crack into the wall of arrogance you've built around yourself. Additionally, I say, your privilege to operate a motor vehicle in this state is revoked for 10 years. Not suspended, revoked. If you are found driving here before that decade is over, you will be charged and sentenced under the maximum allowable penalty, and you will not like how that feels. I flip to the last page. Restitution. I say, you will pay $25,000 to Officer Lee for emotional distress, therapy costs, and increased security measures his family has been forced to take as a result of your threats and social media posts. You will pay an additional $10,000 to the city to cover the costs of the extended investigation your behavior necessitated. His lawyer starts to object. I hold up a hand. Denied, I say. We are well within our rights, and when if you are paroled, I add, you will complete 500 hours of community service, not with your family's foundation, not at charity bowls, but at organizations serving at-risk youth in this community. You will show up in a plain t-shirt, not a custom suit, and you will clean floors, stock food shelves, and look people in the eye who live on the other side of the economic universe from you, staring at me now, like I've started speaking a language he doesn't know. I'm not done. One more condition, I say. You will write a letter to Officer Lee, handwritten, in your own words, not drafted by your attorney, not polished by a PR firm, a letter in which you explain what you did, why it was wrong, and what you claim to have learned. That letter will be reviewed by this court before you are eligible for release. If it reads like a performance, you can continue practicing sincerity from a prison cell. I set the pen down, and finally, I say this. Court is forwarding the complete case, file including your translated phone calls, your Instagram posts, and your in-court statements to the United States Attorney's Office and to the appropriate federal agencies. Because when a man invokes names associated with international criminal organizations while threatening to make an officer disappear, that raises questions beyond my jurisdiction. I look at him one last time. You told Officer Lee that with one call, he would disappear. I say, you told this court I was too poor to judge you. Let me clarify something for you. Mr. Petrov, I am not rich. I drive a car older than you are. I buy my own groceries. No one wires me $50,000 at 3 in the morning. But that is exactly why I can judge you. Because your money cannot touch me. Your father cannot promote or fire me. Your followers do not pay my salary. The people of this state do. And they expect me to use the power they gave me to protect them from drunk drivers, from violent offenders, and yes, from arrogant young men who think their bank accounts put them above the rest of us. Lift a gavel. In this courtroom, I say, the value of a life is not measured in euros or Instagram likes. It is measured in the same way for everyone. You are going to prison. Not because I'm poor and you're rich. Not because I dislike you, but because the law demands it. That is real power. Not the ability to make people disappear, but the ability to say to anyone, not here, not today, not above the law. The gavel comes down. Bailiff, I say, remand the defendant into custody. As the deputy steps forward and snaps cold steel around wrists that have only ever worn gold and leather. I see it, for the first time since he rolled through Oak Ridge at 102 miles an hour. The look in Nikolai Petrov's eyes is not boredom, it's shock. And under that, just the faintest glimmer of something that might, one day, if we're very lucky, grow into understanding. For now, understanding is optional. Consequences are not.